Hello everyone and welcome. This is Christine with Pattercrafts and I'm super excited today to be joining Team Tiny and participating in the Halloween Hop. This is a hashtag driven hop. So if to see all the creators that created this month, you're just going to search hashtag Team Tiny Halloween Hop. It's in the title of this video, so you could click on there to see all the videos for this month. So the items I'm using today is this stencil here from Stamp Anniething. This is a spider web stencil. I'm super excited to use it. It's going to be the first time. Also using some watercolor paper, and the fence piece is from Fawn. I don't exactly know the name because I took it out of the package, but it is Fawn. I'm also using the Frightfully Sweet stamp set. This is from MFT Stamps. So the critters I'll be using, but the pumpkins are not from this stamp set. They are, and neither is that moon. I wanted to have some regular pumpkins, and this particular set only had the kind that you would use if you were trick-or-treating. So I grabbed those from a different stamp set. And they were pre-colored, so I'm not even 100% sure where they came from. I'm sorry. All right, so I'm going to do some very basic ink blending. I'm using some black ink distress, or black soot distress ink, sorry. Also, warning, if you are disturbed by the movement, you may want to skip ahead. My table is very wobbly, so as much as I try to keep my surface from moving as best as I could, it still does shake. It's not the camera shaking, that is just my table. So if you, if that bothers you, or could, I know some people that would make them maybe sick to their stomach, you might want to just, skip ahead and maybe head towards the end of the video where you could see the card come together. But if you're still here, I'm going to assume you're okay with this slight shaking of the table. So I'm just using the black soot distress ink just to kind of give this a grayish look on my watercolor paper. You can see I'm not really being super smooth with my distress ink. I just want to lay some ink down. I don't have any gray cardstock, so this is just the way I kind of made some. I am now going to go ahead and tape down my stencil to my watercolor paper and onto the board that I'm using. This is I think it's a Make Art Station board. It's just this metal board. It's got some magnets on it, and it's really great for this sort of thing. So I've gone ahead, I've got my stencil down. I want the part of the stencil to be a lot darker. So I'm using this round one versus the rectangular one. I have a little bit more control. I can add more pressure, and I don't have to worry about maybe damaging the stencil. I have sometimes a heavy hand, and I tend to bend parts of stencils that I don't mean to. I have thought about maybe getting some of that pixie spray to help, but for now, I'm just trying to be super careful. But overall, the stencil is pretty durable, and I'm pretty impressed with it. So I'm just going over the stencil with the black soot, really heavy. And you can tell how much my table shakes because I just knocked down my tape runner. Oh, Lordy. So we'll just finish up here, just adding the black soot to all the little places. There's really nothing special going on here. And then I'm going to grab a paper towel, and I'm going to try to take off as much of the black ink as I can off the stencil while leaving the stencil in place. So just going to go ahead and try to wipe as much of that off as I can. And I'm going to be bringing in some of my favorite Nuvo Glimmer paste. This is the color Moonstone. It's gorgeous and I love it, and I can't believe I've almost used more than half of this tube or this little jar. So now I'm just going to go ahead and coat over the stencil with the Glimmer paste. Now the thing with using at least this Glimmer paste when using distressing, because I've done something similar before where I use the stencil and I kind of go over with the Glimmer paste. That color from the distress ink will kind of dye all that extra paste. So you really want to make sure you're only pulling out enough of what you need for your project, because you're not going to want to put the Glimmer paste back into the container. So like this is a white glimmery Glimmer paste. It is and so if you put this back in, it's just going to like make it gray. And the other project I had done with it, I had used the red, and I didn't want it obviously to be pink, and I'll scrape it off here so you can see. So I probably could have used a little less, but this is why I'm not putting that back in. I don't want to ruin the color. So go ahead and put that aside, and now I got to put this whole panel aside to dry. It does take about 20 to 30 minutes to dry where you could work with it. I usually like to let it sit overnight. You do need to clean your stencil off right away because the Glimmer paste will stick to it and it's just way easier to clean. So I'm taking off my washi tape. You can see it was clearly very sticky because I ripped up some of my paper. We're going to go ahead and now put this panel somewhere safe where I won't put something on top of it. And I'm going to wipe off the little palette that I used, the little spatula thing. That washcloth is very wet, so I kind of put that aside with the washcloth on top, so the washcloth would help keep that moist until I could get to the sink to wash it. In the meantime, I've already made this panel for this card, and because I kind of wanted to make sure how it would come out before I decided to do this, and I loved it, so we're going to go ahead with this one that's already been drying. This I am going to trim down to just be on a A2 size card front. So this is going to get trimmed down to 5 1/4 by 4. And right now I'm just kind of taking all those little extra edges off where I didn't do any of the stenciling. And now I'm kind of, at first I thought maybe I'd do 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but this does not cut very well. But I think that's all on my trimmer. My trimmer is very old. I have had it since I've been card making. So I'm going to say I've probably had it for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years myself, and I bought it at a yard sale. So I do end up flipping this over just to see if I could get a better cut. And that does help. But I probably just needed to use my other trimmer for this. Anyway, that's nothing you would know if I didn't tell you that little story. All right, so we have my panel all set. I'm going to trim down this 100-pound black cardstock to be 4 1/4 by 11, and we will score that at 5 1/2, so we have a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 card base. Once the card base is all ready, I'm going to take my stenciled piece, we'll pop that onto the front. I'm just using the tape runner. I thought about putting it up on foam tape, but I wanted to put my critters on some foam, and sometimes if I do too many layers of foam, it doesn't like to fit in the envelope very well. So I decided to just adhere this directly onto the card, not use any foam. Let's grab our goodies, and I'm going to take the fence out and figure out how much of this I need to trim off. The kind of fun thing with this fence is because it's a little wonky, my trimming doesn't have to be perfect. After I put the spider web piece down, I was like, oh, I should have put the fence on first, but it worked out fine. So using some liquid glue, being very generous on the bottom, just adding a little bit to the upper portion of the fence. I don't really care if that part is adhered down all the way, but I really do want that bottom part to be adhered well. And I thought liquid glue would be the best over that Glimmer paste. So now we're going to just use some ATG for my tallest little critter here, because he's just kind of going to be in the background a little bit. And then his two little friends will pop up on either side on some foam tape. At this point, I was kind of debating if I wanted to put him on foam, but I said that's when I decided no, because I'm going to put him down. We're going to put the other two critters on foam tape because I want the pumpkins to also be along the fence, but I want them to be behind the critters. So he was going to go there, but his hat was going to be in the face of the other, so we're going to put him on the other side. And then we'll pop this one up and we're going to grab those pumpkins. The pumpkins I am going to adhere with liquid glue. I thought I would be able to fit them all, but when I actually started putting the card together, I realized this card was a little shorter than I imagined when I was getting all my supplies and stuff out. So I do put a pumpkin on each side. I'm going to use this teeny tiny little baby pumpkin. We'll put him over the pumpkin on the left. I'm going to also add the moon. I thought about adding a sentiment to the front of the card, but I already figured enough of my spider web had been covered up and I didn't want to cover up anymore. So I am going to grab a white mat for the inside of my card and I'll stamp the sentiment on there. Whenever I'm using colored cardstock, especially darker colors, I always add a white mat so that I can write my message to my recipient in there. So we'll go ahead and pop that in, and then I'm going to be using the sentiment from the Frightfully Sweet stamp set. It says, "Have a frightfully sweet Halloween." So we are going to just go ahead and use some black ink here and stamp the sentiment there, right there in the middle. Kind of in the middle, but more towards the upper part of the middle. And then I was like, ooh, let's put that little pumpkin right here on the inside as well. Add a little pop of color to the inside of the card. And this will be it. So thank you so very much for joining me today. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hop along and see what everybody else created for their Halloween cards. If you haven't already, I would totally appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. But until next time, everyone, have a great day. Bye.